Let's go.
All right. Welcome into the Ohio State of Mind podcast, episode number 24. It is Wednesday, April 17th. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Chen. On the other side with me is Josh Keatley, and we have a special guest today. We have Tyler Johnson of the Scarlet Gray Podcast. And we've got Tyler for a little bit, so we're going to get right into it. And let's find out, Tyler, what obviously a couple of days post-spring game, your podcast, Scarlet Gray Podcast, already kind of went over some of this, but we kind of want to regurgitate some of that information. So what were your biggest takeaways from this past weekend?
So first thing for me is it's hilarious everyone is calling this like a really close quarterback competition, because one of my big takeaways from the spring game on Saturday is Ryan Day told us that there is no quarterback competition with how he laid out the quarterbacks, because Will Howard took the first snaps of this game,
right,
which are interesting because a lot of reports I've read, a lot of things that I've heard, like literally heard from people, is that Devin Brown was the guy getting all the first team reps in practice. He was the one getting the first reps with the offensive line right before the spring game. And then Will Howard comes out, takes the first snaps. And then you go to Lincoln Keenholz, which I do understand. You're trying to get the twos against the twos. But then Devin Brown comes out for that third series. But keep in mind, after Devin Brown comes out with the ones, that is the only series he gets with the ones. Will Howard only took every single rep that he was out there was with the ones. And Devin Brown comes back out at the end of the first half and is taking reps with basically, I want to say third stringers and some of these guys that might be walk-ons. I mean, against other third stringers. And I just thought that was really weird to me. And I think that really tells us where this quarterback competition is, because I don't really think it is a quarterback competition personally. I also believe that when Will Howard was brought in here, he was going to be the starting quarterback because you gave him a significant amount of money. And like my co-host said, that shouldn't be the reason that he is the starting quarterback. But unfortunately, I really do think that plays into it.
So piggybacking off of that, then why do you think that Ryan Day hasn't said Will Howard's the guy?
I would love to know the answer to that. I really would.
I think we all
think
would, right?
Because I think that personally last year he waited way too long. You can't decide. I don't like deciding quarterback competition 2 games into the season. I think that's dumb, because I think whoever is going to be the starter needs as many first team reps as possible, and then let them know, because let a guy like, I know Devin Brown has said he's going to stay, but if you told Will Howard he was the starter and you let Devin Brown know that, you give Devin Brown the opportunity to go get a starting job somewhere, which I think he deserves that opportunity. Personally, he's dealt with some really terrible circumstances since coming to Ohio State. I mean, the job against Kyle McCord, he never really got a fair opportunity. He got hurt, and then it just never seemed like he got equal reps during that competition. It seems like he is this year, and yet they're still going to go with Will Howard just based off what we saw in the spring game and just kind of how things are playing out. It's unfortunate for Devin Brown, because I really do think he wants to succeed at Ohio State. But at the same time, how long can you also wait on a guy that's been here for 3 years? Like, and if you're Devin Brown, how long are you willing to wait? If you think you're a starting quarterback in Division I, which I believe he is, and I think he is that talented, if it's not at Ohio State, like, I get you want to start here. You got Julian Sayin, you have Aaron Nolan. You're bringing in one of the top quarterbacks in 2025, Tavian St. Clair, next year. I don't think Devin Brown is going to beat out all 3 of those guys next year. So if you can't beat out Will Howard, or Ryan Day is going to choose Will Howard over Devin Brown, then if you're Devin Brown, what is the motivation at staying at Ohio State? That's the thing I also don't understand either, because I want Devin Brown to get that opportunity somewhere if it's not going to be here.
So let me ask you this. So do you believe that do you believe that they're not telling Devin Brown that he's not going to play because they want to trick Devin Brown into staying, or because they're not sure?
I think part of it is maybe they're not 100% sure, but I think a big part of it is in the transfer portal era, you're trying to keep everybody. Like, you're not – in the spring game, the way the reps were divvied out was interesting to me among all the quarterbacks. Now, Julian Sayin got a ton of reps, and that makes sense. He's a freshman. But I think what that told us right there is another story. I think they're preparing Julian Sane to be the backup quarterback this year. I really do. And give him as many reps as possible. That was his first setting in Ohio Stadium. I think they're trying to give him as many reps as possible. We've heard a ton of just great reports on Julian Sane. They didn't back up in the spring game. I think they're preparing him to be the backup quarterback this year. I don't know what they're doing with Devin Brown. I don't understand what's going on there because the reports are true and he is outperforming Will Howard. He should be the starting quarterback. But if they're not going to do that, I think they're just trying to keep Devin Brown here in case an injury happens, is what it seems like to me.
So right. And again, I want to thank you for coming on the show and your podcast, Scarlet Gray Podcast. I definitely go check it out. It's much higher production value than us, by the way. Got to give you mad props for that. But I listen.
You don't like my $1 million home in the back?
Right? Yeah. We got comments on that. I do listen to it, pretty regular. And I heard your last show about the spring game summary, and I agree with what you're saying about Will Howard's going to start. If nothing else, because of the political factor. And unfortunately, I think that's the way it is. We're seeing that a lot. And I'm not blaming Ryan Day for that, although I want to. I don't know if you listen to our show very often. I do when I can, yeah. I've been on the – don't lie. Don't patronize.
I really do, actually. I listen to you guys more than more outside of the podcast. I listen to you guys to suck at most.
Oh, well, that's very nice.
Thank you.
So you're aware I've been on the fire Ryan Day train for a while. Yeah. But I don't blame Ryan Day for being super political in regard to playing, because I feel like you could see that's changed with the transfer portal, with the NIL, yada, yada, yada. So I am with you that I think Will Howard is probably going to start game one. I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying about the spring game scheduling the snaps. First of all, I think that Devin Brown did take a lot of the pre-game reps. So I don't know if that counts for anything. I don't know. Second of all, I feel like they kind of screwed Will Howard on that first drive anyways, because he was driving down and then they punted from the third. It was it was very weird how they treated it. I also think that Devin Brown was more efficient with his passes in my eyes. And I talked about it Saturday after the game. And I asked a couple people that were sitting next to me just to make sure I wasn't biased, because I have stock in many of Devin Brown with the way I've run my mouth about him recently. Just to make sure I was, not being biased. Everybody seemed to believe that Devin Brown outplayed Will Howard. So some of it, I think some of the script and some of the reason why Will Howard got the play that he did, basically saw the field more, is a lot like what you're saying with Julian saying. Will Howard, I think the biggest obstacle for Will Howard since arriving to Ohio State is that it's Ohio State. He's every day. There's not. This is the biggest media department in college football. Even Alabama has less media members than Ohio State. So you have that many people staring at you at a daily basis. His Twitter's got to be lighting up. His social media's got to be lighting up. I think it was so. If I'm Ryan Day and I think that this guy is in the competition and he might win, and I want him to win, I'm throwing him out there more than Devin Brown. Devin Brown's been out there. He's done it. He played. There's no bigger stage than getting your ass wiped on a cotton bowl, okay? Well, we've seen it. He's done, right? He wants to see what Will Howard can do in front of 85,000 people. So I think that was more the design. I do, and again, I'll be the first one to bash Ryan Day. I do think he is one of the reasons why he's not a great coach is because he's a good person, and I don't think he's the type of guy to. Now, I know you didn't say trick Devin Brown to say, but but I don't think he's the kind. I think if he had a very clear idea and he was super confident, he would tell Devin Brown. Because I think that's what he did with Kyle McCord. I really truly believe. I don't think Kyle McCord just pissed his pants and left. I think that Ryan probably had an upsetting conversation with him and said, hey, look, dude, you can stay, but I'm going to be straight with you. And I think he had that with Aaron Nolan too. When the Julian Sane came in, people were upset. Like, oh, you're screwing Aaron Nolan. I really believe that he sat down with Aaron Nolan and said, hey, we're doing this. Are you with us or against us? If you're against us, that's fine. I'm just letting you know. I'm doing my due diligence. I think that Ryan Day is pretty good about that. But that's the only thing I really kind of disagree with. Mike, what do you think about all that quarterback stuff?
To be honest with you, I get what Ryan Day is trying to do, right? So, Tyler, I'm in your camp. I 100%, and if you've heard before,
well, we're all in the same camp. We all have.
What I'm getting to is the Julian Sane part of it. I believe he will be QB2, right? I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, he got
Devin Brown stays.
Yeah, even if Devin Brown stays. Because, look, Devin Brown is limited, I think. And Julian Sayin, watching it, I just, he's not the best thrower. He's more of an athlete, right? That's what I see. Julian Sayin is a quarterback. He is elite quarterback. He's got the accuracy, the arm strength. Now, yeah, that pick, I mean, it's the wind kind of held that ball up and everything. But I feel like Julian Sayin, over the course of time, his ceiling and floor are significantly higher than what Devin Brown offers, and therefore Ryan Day is going to push the envelope with him.
Okay. Go on,
that's, I mean, pretty much all I'm saying is that I think Devin Brown is just there to have a veteran voice that can help along another quarterback, especially if he's not going to start this year. And we're going to get into some transfer portal talk. I think he's pretty close to the top of my list of guys that probably are going to go.
Yeah. So we're not talking about I'm not disagreeing with either one of you. I agree that Julian Sayin has the highest ceiling. You got to higher the ceiling Will Howard. I don't think, and honestly, I don't think Will Howard is that good. I understand the role he plays. I understand that the reason I was more of a Cameron Ward fan, but I understand why why Ryan Day would rather have Will Howard, because he's not trying to pitch YOLO balls and lose his job. Mm-hmm. Will Howard's not going to do that. Even though Howard is more limited, he provides that high floor, and I get that. Julian Sayin has a much higher ceiling than everybody, and I'm not arguing against that. What I'm saying is it's really hard. We all, maybe not you, Ty, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but Mike, you and I talked about Devin Brown, and we both liked Devin Brown this time last year, and we both said Devin Brown was good, and we both were kind of fighting like, hey, if Kyle McCord doesn't work out, Devin Brown could do this. Why is it giving we were both kind of fighting the Devin Brown fight. So it doesn't really jive well when I hear you say, because it's more, if you just said Julian Sayin was better than him, okay, cool, I'm with you. But it feels like you're also saying you don't think Devin Brown's got it anymore. And I think that's unfair. This is a guy that has been bumped and bruised. This is not a guy who went out there and sucked like we saw. I don't want to say Kyle McCord sucked. This is not a guy who went out there, got his fair shake, and did not live up to expectations like Kyle McCord. This is a guy that went out there, and every time he went out there, he twisted his ankle. Right? So I feel like it's a little unfair to say that he can't do it. This is
tough, though. This is tough because when you bring in Julian Sayin to the conversation and you just watch the kid, first off, I mean, his release is at an NFL level at his age, which is just incredible to me. He's got some other things he obviously has to improve. But if you're Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, you're looking at this from this perspective. Who is the guy that you want to give reps to in these blowout games? Do you want it to be Devin Brown, a guy who's going to come in for his third year at Ohio State? Or are you going to do it with a guy that, let's say Will Howard goes down and you jump into, again, it's not saying he's Trevor Lawrence, but you're jumping into that type of situation. Can Julian Sayin take the keys and go? I am more under the ability right now that I think if Julian Sayin gets reps these first 5 to 6 games, because they should be blowouts in the second half, I'm giving those reps to Julian Sayin. And you know what? If Will Howard somehow struggles and we have a Kelly Bryant situation here at Ohio State, it would not shock me if they turn to Julian Sayin at some point, because he has that upside and he can spin it with anybody. And I'll say this too. When Jeremiah Smith, because he follows us, which is awesome. I'd love to get him on the show. We'll see. But he liked a tweet I had about Ryan Day saying Julian Sayin was even in the conversation to be the starter. These guys know, okay? Julian Sayin's a talent. I mean, I understand that quarterbacks arrive late and whatnot. He lost his black stripe that quick. I mean, no, he's not there to be the third back. He's not there to be the third quarterback. Right. If anything, I really do think they're going to push it in the summer. They're going to see he's already gained 15 pounds. He's already getting the weight on. You don't want him to gain too much more in a short amount of time. It's just not good for young quarterbacks. But he's going to get more time in Chip Kelly's system. They're all on the same level within the Chip Kelly side of things with the system. Obviously, Julian Sayin's still learning the Ryan Day schemes, things like that. But if Julian Sayin comes back over the summer and just starts balling out with these guys, you're making him your backup quarterback, because there's that much potential with him, because he might, because I haven't seen a lot of Devin Brown to even be able to know, he might be the best quarterback throwing wise on this team. He very well might be.
But we haven't seen out of all three of us, how many passes have we seen Julian Sain throw? In an Ohio State uniform.
I mean,
some clips in practice. That's it.
Clips in practice in the spring game, right?
I agree. Julian Sain has the highest ceiling, and if he any other year, I think I would be more in agreement with you. But the fact that I think that Ryan Day's seat is so hot that he can't breathe, I think that it would benefit him. Is Julian, if you're 6 games in and Will Howard gets hurt, first of all, I don't think that there's going to be a situation where he goes to Julian Sain halfway through the year, just because I don't think he wants to. At that point, I don't think he's going to risk it. He didn't do it last year. That doesn't really see like Ryan Day's vibe. That he's on the hot seat. But I don't know. I mean, that's all we keep hearing him talk about too, is the season's going to be long, the playoffs are extended, this and that. I think that, because Will Howard is an average quarterback. There's a reason he kicked him out. I think he just wants a guy to do what he knows he can do. And Julian Sain, I don't care how good he is, he's going to make freshman mistakes. They all do. It's impossible to stop. So to roll with a guy like that as your backup, man, he would show. If he does, that'll show some real. If Devin Brown transfers, then he's got no choice. But if Devin Brown stays and he still does that, I don't know. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying that would take some real cojones that I've never seen Ryan Day have.
Look at it this way too. What if then, let's say a scenario where Will Howard's not playing well, does it make Ryan Day look better if he's putting in Julian Sain, the guy that has all the hype, or he's putting in the guy that he thought Will Howard was better than?
Right.
But he thought Will Howard was better than both of them. That's why Will Howard started, right?
Correct. But I'm mainly saying this for the Devin Brown aspect of things. Like, Devin Brown is as good as what the reports are saying, what is the reason in Ryan Day's mind that he can't start Devin Brown? Because I don't know. That's the thing that I go back to. Like, what is it? Is it really come down to, well, we're giving this guy $1 million to play football at Ohio State, so this is a place to start for us? Because if that's the case, then the whole NIL system's flawed anyway. I mean, it already is, and it's been flawed. But that shouldn't be the reason that Will Howard starts for Ohio State. If Will Howard gives you the best chance to win, he should start. If Devin Brown gives you the best chance to win, he should start. And I'm going to say this. If Julian Sain gave you the best chance to win, I don't care if he's a true freshman, he should be your starting quarterback. Like, it's enough of the politics around who cares how much you're paying somebody. You're supposed to put the best players on the field. And I think last year, you're paying Kyle McCord more than Devin Brown. Kyle McCord was always going to start. That's the same situation we're in again. Devin Brown's making a lot less than Will Howard. Who's going to start at quarterback? Mm-hmm. It's going to be Will Howard.
Unfortunately,
but that's the era of college football we're in.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that, the situation you're describing kind of reminds me of Terrell Pryor taking over for Todd Beckman.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Jim Tressel wasn't on his hot seat, man. That's the only thing that's keeping me from jumping on board with what you guys are saying about Julian Sain, is that Ryan Day has to keep his job. I think, and there's other instances of, I think you can see other instances of that occurring. All spring long, we were talking about Josh Fryer moving to guard, Luke Montgomery moving to right tackle. That's not happening. It looks like Josh Fryer staying at right tackle, Carson was playing at guard, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that. And maybe I'm wrong, but that to me looks like another example of Ryan Day's like, I'm not going to rock the boat. I know that this is going to work. Yes, maybe maybe Montgomery brings me a higher ceiling, but I know that this isn't going to rock the boat, and I'm going to get a high floor and a suitable amount of play. I think you also see on the defensive side with Cody Simon. It doesn't look like they're going to take that dude off the field. And you're telling me he's better than C.J. Hicks, Gabe Powers, and Sonny Styles? I'm not saying he's not. All I'm saying is they've made a very clear indication that Cody Simon's not coming off the field. And in my eyes, I question that a bit. And but that's a guy who's been in the system for 4 years, knows what he's doing, and is not going to rock the boat. So I think that you're seeing that thought process scattered about all the positional groups, which is why I think He's going to go with Will Howard because he's already. I think that you're right too. Ryan Day already has in his mind who he wants to go with. I wish he would just pull the trigger and say it, but instead he's dragging it out.
Right.
And Chip Kelly, I think last year I would have said Chip Kelly would help guide the situation. I think that there is a level where he does that. I'm not saying he doesn't, but last year Chip Kelly handled the quarterback situation at UCLA as poor as Ryan Day did at Ohio State. So I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know what's going to happen. All I do know is that he's going to put in not who the best is, not who has the highest ceiling, but who has the highest floor. And the NIL thing might play a role too. That's the thing about the NIL thing. I don't want to go down a tangent because there's a lot. The NIL is just this mystery. You and I talked about it all the time with Mike. We talked about with Mike Elko taking that job and Jimbo Fisher. I was talking to someone the other day about Jimbo Fisher sucking at Texas A&M, and we talked about I don't even know if it's because Jimbo Fisher sucks. Texas A&M is such a weird program because you're not running the show. You got fans running the show. You got boosters running the show. Yeah. You know what I mean? At Ohio State, that's not the case. But this NIL money, I think it's easier for Ryan Day because instead of 3 oil barons giving the university money, it's a billion fans, which makes it easier. But I don't know if Reichert has any say and is whispering, "Hey, bro, I gave that guy Camaro to come here. You motherfucker, you better start."
Yeah, right.
That Porsche is still on the side. If I gave him a Porsche to sit the bench, I swear to God,
it's Ryan, a Camaro. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. But you can't tell me that's not. The more money you take, it's just like us in real life. If I ask my girlfriend for gas money, I'm going to have to pay that back. I'm not, she's going to let me know that I borrow gas money. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah. That's the only part. That's the wild unknown with the quarterback position, if that makes sense. Mike, you got anything to add there before we move on to the position?
No. I think we've covered the quarterbacks. Why don't we look at that defense? Obviously the wide receivers, they didn't look all that great. But as Josh and I talked about in our spring game, post-spring game pod, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that secondary is going to be one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. What were your thoughts on the defense there, Tyler, that we saw on Saturday?
I mean, you guys talked about with the secondary. I mean, this secondary should be the best in college football. I mean, just look around. You got Denzel Burke. He's probably a first-round pick. He came back. Jordan Hancock is going to be the best slot corner in college football. And he would have been drafted and been on an NFL roster. He came back. And then you look at Davison Igbinosa. I think he is very underrated. I mean, so you obviously have him on the other side. You have Jermaine Matthews, who you got to find ways to get him on the field as much as you can, because I think he's going to be the next great corner here. And then, of course, didn't see much of him. Caleb Downs is here. Lathan Ransom wasn't on the field, but Jaden Bonshu has looked good all spring.
Yeah,
Jalen McClain looked good. I mean, the talent is so deep in the secondary. And then you talk about the rest of the defense. This defense on paper, it should be the best defense in college football. It shouldn't be close because you have NFL prospects galore on your defense. So what I want to see this year. And I know we didn't see a ton of it in the spring game because, again, you're not going to show much. That's not what the point of the spring game is. It's to get the reps going and give young guys playing time and whatnot. But I want to see Jim Knowles be really aggressive this year. Last year, the goal was to keep everything in front of you, and he wasn't as aggressive, which I understand. This year, you have a Caleb Downs on the back end of the defense that can make plays from anywhere. You have Lathan Ransom coming back. You have everybody back. I want to see this be one of the most aggressive defenses. I want to see them forcing multiple turnovers per game. That's what I want to see. And I think in the spring game you just saw, it's going to be difficult for anybody to throw against this team and let alone run the ball. I mean, so it's just very exciting. It really is. You see everybody they bring back and you just think to yourself, going back to quarterback, I don't need someone to be a star. I need someone that's not going to turn the ball over, lead us down the field, couple drives. I mean, this team could score 20 points a game and still might not lose because that defense is that good and that capable of pretty much anyone they play shutting them out.
I don't think I
Mhm.
don't want to speak on behalf of you, Michael, but we talked about the same thing. I think you're right. This is the best defense in the country. This is definitely the best defensive line in the country. I mean, if you look at this two deep, I mean, you named a lot of guys. Calvin Simpson-Hunt had a good game. Jahad Carter didn't get to play. That's a guy who was the interceptions leader at Syracuse 2 years ago. It's a Power 5 school. Lorenzo Styles. Yeah, Lorenzo Styles Jr. didn't play, and that's a guy that we heard all offseason how he's improved as a defensive back. Kenyatta Jackson's a very explosive individual that's in the two deep. Court Williams, he was hurt again. Hopefully he is ready to play this season. We know how his career's gone, sadly, but if he is healthy, if he's 75% healthy and he's in your two deep, that's another former 5-star recruit. The two deep is just absolutely incredible. The defensive line is just. I mean, the 8 guys. There's 8 guys there that are going to be draft picks. Ty Hamilton didn't even start the spring game. Hero Canoe did, and Ty Hamilton's good. Ty Hamilton is damn good. He can start for, I don't know, 100 of the 130 college football teams. Something you mentioned on your podcast a couple days ago was you envision the offense running the ball 60% of the time. I envision that too. One, because it's going to keep your defense on the field to refresh, and you don't need to have that high scoring offense. You don't need to you don't need to go at a sprinter's pace on the offensive side of the ball because that defense is so good. I don't feel like we're being biased when we say that. I know, I don't know about you guys, but I can't sit here and rattle off the two deep at Alabama. But I also know that, we all watch enough football to know what they have, and this is a strong two deep. I mean, all these guys were projected to be drafted. That's not us. That's not us saying that. That's the general consensus in the community, and they all came back. So I'm with you. I'm very excited for that defense.
Yeah, the defense is going to be like crazy good. I mean, let's be real. I mean, obviously the one position that is up in the air is linebacker. I think we all know that. I think everybody knows that. I think the coaching staff knows that. I think the players know that. National media knows that.
Yeah.
But, if they get average play from that group, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Because you've got that secondary that's going to lock everyone down. The defensive line is going to be able to, create pressure. And I think that they're going to actually, Tyler, to your point, being aggressive, I'm not sure we're going to see as much blitzing. I do think that the scheme is going to change just a little bit to get those to create a little bit more one-on-one matchups on the outside, especially with JT and Sawyer, because they're proven commodities. We know what they can do. The interior, if they can hold up, one extra guy, whoever's down, in the middle of the defense, and you're getting one-on-one matchups with Sawyer and JT on the outside against offensive tackles, I'd take that every single day. So, I'm not, aside from linebacker, that defense is just going to be absolutely stellar.
But even the linebacker position, and Roy, I see your question. Give us let's finish up the linebacker conversation. Even linebacker, it's not that it's a bad unit. It's just that we're scared about the inconsistency and the inexperience, right?
Right.
Cody Simon's going to be the most experienced guy, and he wasn't a starter last year, right? But there's a lot of talent. CJ Hicks was a 5-star. Gabe Powers was a 5-star by numerous people. Arvell Reese, that was another 4-star. There's a lot of talent there. One of those guys, someone should step up. Now, whether they do or not, I don't know, but someone should be able to step up.
Better be Sonny
That's
Styles.
Take them on.
It better be Sonny Styles. It better be Sonny Styles.
So, Roy, you're one to ask, can Chip Kelly go slow and run the ball? Well, we kind of talked about that. Tyler, you want to hit it? You want to ask that? You want to answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, Chip Kelly likes tempo. That's who he's been, and I think he's going to bring some of that to Ohio State. I don't think it's not going to be the lightning quick tempo you saw when he was at Oregon. I think over the years he has slowed down in that regard. Yes. Like, it's not. I mean, he used to have the fastest tempo in college football. I mean, even talking about even when he went to the NFL, same thing. I mean, the NFL had never seen anything like it. So that's what you're going to see at Ohio State, and I think you need some of that tempo, though. Like, you have the bodies, you have the guys. He has more talent here than he's had with any of those Oregon teams, pretty much anywhere he's been. So use that to your advantage. Like, and I think they're going to do that this year. They're going to mix it up a lot more than probably we've seen in the past. That's who Chip Kelly is. I want Chip Kelly to be who he is because who he's been as an offensive play caller, it has been successful. Again, I mean, UCLA, you can say whatever you want there, but I mean, UCLA is not Ohio State. It doesn't bring in the talent.
He did great at UCLA. I should say he didn't do great. He did. He gets unfairly bashed for what occurred at UCLA when he took over UCLA. First of all, he did improve the program. The program got tougher. The offenses were always okay, and the defenses were always okay. And that was a team that was not okay. And then in the NIL era, the transfer portal era, Mike and I talked about this. UCLA is not built for that. They have three people. They have three people that care about that football team. So it was going to be an uphill battle for him. And he's of the age where he don't want to kiss the babies and suck the dicks anymore. But when we talk about pace, there are examples of him slowing down pace based off the game. Chip Kelly does make adjustments. It's not like he's got this playbook in his head and he doesn't stray away from it. We saw it when he had Jonathan Stewart as a running back. Those teams were evolved around the run. They ran the ball. Maybe it was at a faster pace, but they were still ground and pound, and they did their job. You saw it with Zach Charbonnet when he was at UCLA. LeGarrette Blount. There are examples of his teams conforming to the talent that's there. So I don't think he's going to have any issue with that. Is it still going to be the Chip Kelly offense? Like you said, Tyler, yeah, I agree. It's going to be the Chip Kelly offense, but Chip Kelly has always been pretty good at evolving and changing what he does based off the talent that he has. Screen game is an extension of the run game. That too, Roy. He was, Chip's always been very good at the screen game. So I do think they incorporate that more.
Yeah.
Mike, you got anything to add on that?
I mean, honestly, with the two backs that they have, Henderson and Judkins, why wouldn't you run the ball? Exactly. Obviously, like Tyler, on his the Scarlet Gray X account, Twitter account, whatever you want to call it, after the spring game, he's like, I don't think that the Buckeyes are going to go into the portal and find somebody. And I totally agree with you, 100%. I think that, even losing Dallin Hayden, obviously misused over the course of his first two seasons. I mean, you've got James People, Sam Williams-Dixon, TC Coffey. They're serviceable. They're more than serviceable. I mean, really, like TC Coffey should be a scholarship player somewhere, but he's a walkout. Yeah, he should. Like 100%. Like, I mean, all you do is go look at his highlights. There are legit runs that he's made at this level, which show everybody that he is a scholarship type of back, yet he is not on scholarship. So that just goes to say that there's still depth behind the top two. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a lot of those guys get those carries, which is why I questioned at first Dallin Hayden leaving, but I get it though, because they kind of screwed him over. But I am not concerned with that unit at all. I think that on top of that, you have to get those freshmen ready for next year as well, because we expect both of the starters in Judkins and Henderson to be gone next year, right? I don't expect to see either one of them in a Buckeye uniform next year. Yeah. So you have to get the backups ready. Maybe next year they go into the portal to grab somebody because there's a ton of youth there. You're looking at, potentially a redshirt freshman and a sophomore, running the ball the majority of the time. Do we want that? Not necessarily. So maybe next year they go into the portal and grab somebody. I really don't think that that's a need this year, and I do think that they're gonna, they're gonna lean on their strengths, and one of their strengths is the run game. You've got, aside from Mecca Buka, you've got a fairly green wide receiver group that has some production, but not much, right? You don't have Marvin Harrison coming back, obviously. So you're going to lean, especially early on. I could see them running more than what they will later on this season once those young receivers start getting reps, game speed, understanding, getting obviously a better connection with whoever's the starting quarterback. So I do think that they're going to run the ball a whole hell of a lot more than we've seen. It's not going to be the traditional Ryan Day, just CJ Stroud throw 50 times. I think you're going to see closer to 25 attempts a game, which I think is the perfect number.
Yeah.
And keep in mind too, guys, like you're bringing in, I mean, you have already, like we said, Judkins and Henderson, both are probably going to the NFL after this year.
Yeah.
If they brought in a guy in the portal, Penny Boone from Toledo would make sense. He recently re-entered the portal after already committing to Louisville. So that would be an option. I mean, again, he's got a ton of experience. So that's a senior that you're bringing in. But, I mean, he's got a ton of experience. That being said, I mean, you look at what you could be at in 2025. Sam Williams-Dixon, James Peoples, T.C. Caffey. But then you're going to bring in at least 2 top 5 running backs in the 2025 class. You're probably getting the number 1 back in Jordan Davidson from California coming in. Good chance to get Bo Jackson, another Ohio kid coming in. He's another top 5 back. And then you're probably getting a 3rd back in that class. They're going to be really young at tailback. I mean, if you're going to go in the portal, next year would make the most sense. But let's call it what it is. This entire roster is going to be babies next year, all of them, because you're losing all these guys. You're losing all these juniors and seniors next year. So that's where it's just how it's going to be. Because if you go all in on a team like this, this is the reality of the situation. That team up north is going to experience it this year. So just how it goes.
I don't have an issue with that though. I mean, in today's first of all,
I don't either.
Ryan Day's on the hot seat, so it's time to put all your chips in the middle of the table, right? So I don't have an issue with that.
Yep.
And I don't blame him. I don't think this is a situation where the Rams were like you have to sacrifice to win it 1 year and be shitty the 10 next years. I don't think that's not at a place like Ohio State. They could go reload in the portal. I have no problem with that. Yeah. You mentioned Penny Boone. I think Penny Boone. I like that addition. The only issue with that is that he transferred to Louisville, and then he left because he wasn't gonna. He kind of saw the writing on the wall. He wasn't going to start, right?
Well, he's not going
to
I don't
know
here.
if that's I don't know what the story is with Louisville. I just saw he re-entered the portal, and there was a connection that potentially he could have joined Ohio State this offseason. So just put 2 and 2 together. There
is 2 running backs that I saw in the portal that I would unload the check. Well, I don't know, unload. So Damian Martinez, who was Pac-12 Freshman of the Year in 2022, all Pac-12 2023, 6 foot, 230 pounds of pure power. You convince a guy like that to be the 3rd running back and tell him he's the guy next year. I'm unloading the war chest. That guy is the stud. I understand why he's in the portal. That's a thing too, where I think he's in the portal because there's a coaching change, yada, yada, yada. That is a dude. I would not feel guilty about unloading the NIL chest on. Henry Parrish from Miami. I think he was at Miami. He entered the portal, and then he entered the portal again, right?
Not sure.
But he was always...
Miami had a couple backs enter. One of them came from Ole Miss, and apparently he's going to go back to Ole Miss. I don't remember which. I know Miami's had a decent amount of players leave, so I'm not really sure.
Well, those checks aren't clearing in South Beach.
Right. Well, Henry Parrish is good. I don't know what led him to the portal this time around. I think he's already been in the portal, but he was all ACC 2 years ago. I don't think that's a realistic get because he's going to be a senior. I know the COVID year always messes me up. So that's a guy that's also looking to make the NFL. But a guy like Damian Martinez, that guy's not looking to leave right now. I think that you could convince a guy like that to come. And I mean, that guy is an absolute. That's an all Big Ten caliber player. That's an all Big Ten caliber player. That's the only guy in the portal that I see that I'm like, I mean,
It's funny you mention him because
he's a stud.
It sounds like Ohio State did inquire on Damian Martinez. That's about as far as it got.
Well,
that's as far as it got though. Like
he's
got an in-home visit with Miami tonight. He's not only that. I mean, he's supposed to visit Kentucky. I mean, he's going to visit a couple schools. He's going to visit Miami. I mean, I'll just call it what it is. And I said this: Miami easily could go undefeated this year because their schedule is like absolute garbage, just dog water. But I'll tell you what.
Repeat that last part.
Which part? Their schedule is dog water.
Who's Miami?
Yeah.
That schedule is suck. No, that's what I said. That's what dog water. Yeah, like terrible dog water.
Oh, but Miami's also not good. Are you saying that?
But I'm saying if they have Cam Ward, you bring in Damian Martinez, the likelihood that they end up in the ACC championship game is probably pretty high because they're not going to lose to anybody. Because that team, look at their schedule. If you look at that,
I'm looking at it right now.
But you have to bet on Mario Cristobal. Mario Cristobal couldn't take a knee last year, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
he's got a quarterback. He's got a quarterback though now.
They really have one tough game, and that's Florida State.
That's it, though.
That's it.
That schedule is just ridiculous.
That's it. I mean, they should run through the rest of their schedule. They really should.
Yeah, I don't.
You bring in Damian Martinez with Cam Ward. Good luck. If one of them gets hurt, they're in trouble. But if they stay healthy, they're not playing anybody. They should run right through the ACC. Truly, they should.
They should.
They're that good with those two guys.
We got another listener question, but sidebar, since we're talking about who should do what, I did put down money on Texas to win the national championship. So I just want to put that out there. Plus 750. Plus 750. All right, we got another question from John Wallace, consistent listener. Thanks, John. Tyler, you're hidden for now. How would you rank 1 through 5? 1 being best, 5 being weak. Positions at Ohio State, coaching staff included. Oh wow! Obviously, defensive end has to be top 2. We even include the safeties in the discussion. The past 4 years, we saw it with Purdue. Teams figured out when they can throw the ball against Ohio State. They continue to pick up chunk plays. Last year wasn't a fluke, but it feels like an Achilles heel of Ohio State that hasn't been exposed. So there was a lot there to unpack, John. We do appreciate the question. You're asking multiple things, but we're going to try to answer the best we can. So we kind of already answered the positional group a little bit, right? We're all I guess we really didn't talk about the offense. So in my eyes, I strongly believe that the offensive line is going to be the strong point of the offense. I think someone's going to step up. There's enough there. They have a great mixture of experience and Pandora's box of potential. Then the wide receivers, because you got your star in Emeka Egbuka, and then you got your potential stars. It's a little bit larger of a Pandora's box, and then you got the running back position. I guess that probably should be number 1, right? Travion and Quinshon, that should be number 1.
Gotta be.
Okay, and then quarterback is the weak link on offense for me. All right, I kind of already covered that. What do you guys have offensively before we move on to the defense?
Running backs are number 1. Receivers are number 2. Number 3 for me. Number 3 for me, I'm going to go quarterbacks. Then number 4, I'm going to go tight ends. I don't know what they're doing at tight end. I don't know what's going on with Jelani Thurman.
I was including tight end with receiver.
Oh, okay. That's fair then. That's fair.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then there's still 2. If that's the case, then wide receiver, tight end, still 2. Quarterbacks at 3. Offensive line for me is last because, I don't know. Listen, you're hard on Ryan Day. I have been too. Justin Fry needs to put up or shut up. I don't know how long we can go with this where he's got guys that he's bringing in and then it seems like they're not really developing and playing that well. We still don't know who's starting on the right side of our offensive line. Yep. That's a problem. Yep. And there's not guys in the portal that we can bring in, and they're going to be starting here more than likely, unless we get lucky and someone does. You know what? Maybe we tamper with someone and some good offensive lineman enters the portal, which is completely possible. But the offensive line is a huge question mark for me. And just with Justin Fry in general, I mean, the dude just struggles to really recruit outside of Ohio, which is it's just not good right now. I don't like what I'm seeing from the line. I really don't.
You could just say he struggles to recruit.
Period.
Yeah. I tried to give him a little. I've been hard on him, so I tried to at least give him a little bit of slack. If he gets, listen, I've said this to my buddies. If he gets David Sanders Jr., I will shut up. You will not hear me say one word about Justin Fry if he goes out and lands him. I'm telling you, I'm on record saying it.
Can I say one thing before Mike goes and agrees with you? Mike, he hates Justin Fry. I don't think Fry has been here long enough for me to officially hate him. Now, with that said, I do think I understand your guys' concerns. Your concerns aren't wrong. It's just my leash is longer for the offensive line coach. It just is. As far as the right side of the offensive line goes, I do think we have our answer. I think it's Josh Fryer and Carson Hinsman. And Josh Fryer, I don't know why the offensive line gets so much hate. I understand that Josh Fryer had a lot of issues last year. So did Josh Simmons. But Fryer was still all conference. And he still had – when he wasn't going up against guys like Chop Robinson, he did his job. It wasn't like he was getting beat like a drum against – you remember Taylor Decker's first game against Khalil Mack? We didn't know who Khalil Mack was.
Oh, that was bad.
My. Yeah. My God, is this guy getting beat by a Buffalo defensive end? But end up being we didn't know. We didn't know any better. But he never had games like that, right? And Carson Hinsman, That's a guy who's put on weight, transformed his body. We've heard positive things about him all offseason. Another highly rated recruit. You got Tegra Chabot behind him, Luca Montgomery behind him. Somebody should develop. This one, in my opinion, is guaranteed to be better than the offensive line from last year. And I don't know if the offensive line was the issue last year.
See, this is where I'm worried
man.
about the offensive line.
Oh, man.
This is where I'm worried. Real quick.
They only lose Matt Jones, who was 30 years old.
Yeah.
No, listen, it's not that. It's not that. When Justin Fry came here, you inherit Paris Johnson Jr., one of the best offensive tackles in Ohio State history. You inherit Luke Whippler. You inherit DeJuan Jones. You inherit all of those guys. Then they leave. Donovan Jackson, you have some talent, don't get me wrong. Josh Simmons ended up being probably one of the best offensive linemen, and even though he struggled last year, he came from the transfer portal. Okay, right. This guy came in the summer last year, and he's probably gonna be the Buckeyes' best offensive lineman this year. The biggest thing that worries me about Justin Fry is he has yet to prove to me he can develop guys into being very good starters at Ohio State, because the minimum at Ohio State, you need to be an all Big Ten even if it's third team offensive line. And right now, I don't know who we have that really is that guy. This entire offensive line is a question mark to me. Outside of Simmons, outside of Jackson, the rest is a question mark. Yep. Even Seth McLaughlin, I don't know what to expect from him. Yeah. I'm expecting him to be good, but there's no guarantee.
His snap issues, who the hell knows?
Well, so let me ask you this. So we're talking a lot about development, just for development, just for development. This is going to be Justin Fry's third year?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is a position group that's historically you don't see guys. I mean, so Paris Johnson played it as a freshman, and then before that it was Michael Jordan. It was maybe one of the four offensive lines at Ohio State.
Yeah. I think so. Michael Jordan, yeah, man.
And then before that, Kirk Martin. I mean, there's big gaps for what you can see a freshman do, right? So I feel like the production thing, I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm saying is, there's not enough data for me to definitively say that what you're saying is true. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know if I agree yet.
Yeah.
The Josh Simmons thing, I don't know why he doesn't get more credit for Josh Simmons, because Josh Simmons struggled.
He did improve
against bad opponents early on.
Improve.
He improved vastly. He went from being I don't want to say the weak link, because Josh Fry was always the weak link, but he went from being arguably, why did we get this guy, to, like you said, the strongest offensive lineman potentially. And that's over a guy like Donovan Jackson, who may, if he has a good year this year, could be a first-round draft pick. And then you're bringing Seth McLaughlin, who was all SEC 2 years ago before the snapping issues. And who's to say those snapping issues weren't on Jalen Milroe? He didn't have those issues 2 years ago.
It's a good point. That part's a good point. That is true. He did not have the issues with Bryce Young.
Sure.
Exactly. And Justin, we talk about Josh Fryer too. That was a dude who was a guard the year before. They're like, here you go, you're a starting right tackle. Right. And they didn't really want him to be the starting right tackle. And he was still all Big Ten.
No choice.
So if he is, I guess let's make a bet. All three of us right now.
Oh, all right.
If Josh Fryer is first team all Big Ten, we all have to agree to give Justin Fry credit for developing the offensive line.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Fine.
We'll see if he starts though.
Fine.
What if he doesn't even start?
Oh boy.
It's Carson Hinsman who might be the odd man, because he's at least going to start guard, right? Do you see? I guess that's the next question. Do you see a future that doesn't? Who are you replacing Josh Fryer with? If it was up to you.
If someone's good enough in the transfer portal, that's what I'm doing right there. Just telling you, that's what I'm doing.
It's not Luke Montgomery, because he had the opportunity to do it this offseason, right?
Or that's what I'm saying, man.
Or Big Tegra.
They didn't. None of those guys got shots. It was just.
It's weird to me. And that's what I don't like to see. That worries me. I mean, Derek Graham is an interesting name to keep an eye on from Troy, because he visited Ohio State in January before committing to Texas A&M. He re-entered the portal from Texas A&M. He only gave up 3 sacks last year and about over 500 snaps. I think that's a guy you would try and bring in. And I think if he is similar to, again, Josh Simmons came from San Diego State. Like, it's not like these guys are coming from huge Power 5 conferences. Right. If they think Derek Graham can come in and start right tackle, I think they're going to go after a guy like that, because I think you're going to lose guys in the portal. You're probably going to lose 7 or more. They're going to be back into the roster guys, but you're going to have spots open. If offensive linemen become available, I think that's where they're going to look. They're going to look at offensive line. They're going to look at depth at defensive line, and even safety, I think, because you're losing Cedric Hawkins, so you got to bring in some more depth there, because they like to have 8 to 9 safeties, especially with how long the season is. But you got to look at the offensive line, because it's not finished. I think they're truly looking for a right tackle. Or I'll even say this. They're looking for right guard and right tackle. I think they're looking on that entire right side of the offensive line. I really do. No one's established over there.
I agree with you. So go back to the rankings. Actually, Tyler, I'm spot on. I would rank them exactly how you did. I did want to make a little David Sanders thing here real quick. David Sanders is this year's Brandon Baker and Jordan Seaton. They're going to get that official. They're going to pretend like maybe they're going to come. And then all of a sudden you're going to see them commit somewhere. From what I've saw, Sanders' biggest issue is distance, which obviously we can't do anything about, right? There's nothing we could do there. So if that is one of his deciding factors, Ohio State's behind the ball on that. They had to fight for his last official to get him on campus, right? It wasn't easy. It was like back and forth and all this. And this goes back to, Matt Rife sucks. I
believe it was the question below that, but I was going to let you.
Yes, no. That just popped out. It's like, Matt Rife sucks.
Ooh, Matt Rife sucks.
But yeah, no, we'll get to that question in just 1 second. Matt Rife sucks. But it all comes back to recruiting and having enough guys. Because if Justin Fry was recruiting at the level we expect him to, we're not talking about going into the portal, right, Tyler? We're not talking about going to the portal and grabbing other guys.
Exactly.
We're talking about backups just getting elevated and getting that opportunity. So I think a lot of it comes back to the massive recruiting misses. Now, the Armstrong twins, I think they're very good. I do think that they'll outplay the recruiting rankings. But like a couple of years ago, his first class, he signed Miles Walker. And have we heard a peep out of that guy? Like,
nope, that was my portal.
Right. Not a thing from him. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's no chatter about him. There's no nothing. And I feel like recruiting, even with the portal, I feel like recruiting is still the lifeblood of every single program. And if there's a coach that's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, it's Justin Fry. And I wanted him to get the can like immediately. I believe he was the only coach that didn't get a raise.
Pay cut.
Right.
Took a pay cut.
That didn't get a raise. He's the only coach that didn't get a raise. Had to take less money. And there's a reason for that.
I will say that and I'm not defending Justin Fry. And after this, we'll do the defensive recap for John, and then you guys can summarize the Matt Rife situation. The Matt Rife, then we'll call it quits. But
okay.
The offensive line, as far as recruiting and development goes, can we also all agree that is the hardest position to both scout and because Mike, it firsthand. We watch these guys.
But you need bodies, though. You need bodies. You need the numbers. Last year, this past 24, they finally got the numbers right. You need 4 to 5 offensive linemen every cycle, and they haven't done that.
That's fair.
Right now. We have 1 for 2025.
Right.
We have 1,
right.
and honestly,
good. He's
top
really good.
Rated recruit. And if he couldn't land Carter Lowe, then I would have fired him right then and there. Because if you can't land a kid from Ohio, and then here's the other thing. That class in 2026, there are 4 offensive linemen in Ohio that are probably going to be top 10 at their position. You better land every single one of them. And you should. You're in Ohio. If you don't, you should be fired. At least 3 or 4. At least land Ohio kids.
Right.
No, I agree. I agree with Tyler. You should nab all 4. You're Ohio State.
I'd say give them a little, 3 of 4, I think would be success.
All right, that's fair. If we're talking about pure numbers, I get it. I'm not going to blame him for the 3-star not developing into a starter, in 1 year. But
but that's the only offensive lineman they took in that class.
I understand that.
That's
I don't have any defense to that.
That's my biggest issue. It's the numbers. Offensive, like you said, Josh. I wholeheartedly agree with you. The offensive line is the toughest recruiting aspect to do because you just don't know what those young men's bodies are going to look like in 2 to 3 years. Right?
I mean, I guess even that was an overassumption on my part because to act like that because I don't know what I'm doing, right? So when I watch these high school tapes, I don't have the same access as some of these high school guys, right? So for me, it's much harder to evaluate an offensive lineman because when I watch Ian Moore, I go, wow, that guy's really good. Why? Because he's the biggest, strongest kid on the field, and he's just smushing guys in the ground. He looks like me playing against Pee Wee kids, right?
Also playing in Indiana, and that's
how
that great.
And that's how all those Ohio State recruits look at offensive line. So it's harder for me. But these guys are Justin Fry is also going out and seeing them in person, seeing them run around, yada yada. So I fine. I will agree with you guys that the numbers last year, the recruiting has been pathetic. I will agree with you guys. As far as the defensive rankings go for John here, I think we all kind of agree. Defensive line first, defensive back second, linebackers third, right? Or did you guys
I might switch defensive backs and defensive line.
Yeah, I'd probably put that the secondary first as well.
I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I guess I'm just thinking
it's like 1A, 1B, man. Like, let's be real here. There's they're 2 elite groups. It's kind of hard to rank both of them.
Yeah, I agree. They should be set there. And then as far as the coaching staff goes, I mean, the coaching staff, ideally, they've brought in Tim Drevno, Chip Kelly. I mean, they've brought in a lot of guys with head coaching experience. I mean, they replaced Tony Alford with Carlos Loughlin. I mean, this realistically, I don't think that this is me being biased. I'm never going to say that this is the best coaching staff in the country because Ryan Day's on it. But it's the parts surrounding him are good enough to where you gotta really mess up, dude. To not, I mean, this is a good coaching staff, kind of, right?
Kind of.
And you're paying them enough money.
Sure are.
That's the thing, right?
All right, let's get to Matt Rife sucks, and then let's wrap this bad boy up. So Matt Rife sucks.
No, see, we already answered this a bit earlier, but I'll let you guys.
Sort of. Tyler.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So, for me, Will Howard's starting. That's no doubt. I'm very tempted to just go out on a limb and say something that, in the back of my mind, I don't think will happen, but might happen, and not say Julian Sand ends the year, but I just don't know if I can say it. I just don't know if I – you know what? I'm going to do it because people can look back on this, and if I'm somehow right, then, I mean, I'll be shocked, but – I'm going to say that. Will Howard's going to start. Julian Sand's going to finish.
I'm close to that. I'd say barring an injury, I think Will Howard will, as long as Will Howard stays healthy, which he has over the course of his career, I don't see him not being the starting quarterback for the college football playoff run. But if he does have an injury, I'm with you, Tyler. I think Julian Sand's the dude.
I mean, I guess I'm going to say Will Howard as well. Unfortunately, begrudgingly, that's not offensive to Will Howard. That's definitely more my bias leaking it because I like Devin Brown. He's just a pleasant individual and a fun person, and I just like him. I see Will Howard finishing the season. I feel like Devin Brown's going to stick around, so that's my number 2. Matt Rife sucks. To give you a big shout out, Tyler. He agrees with you.
Yeah.
Julian Sand is the truth.
It's going to be interesting. It's so difficult to say that, but at the same time, we've seen situations like this in college football. Look at Alabama. Look at Tua in the national championship game.
100%.
Saban brings him in, and he throws the game-winning touchdown pass. Trevor Lawrence. Again, these are now NFL quarterbacks. Like, there are exceptions, okay? But it's not out of the realm of possibility. And you mentioned it, Josh. Ryan Day's job is on the line.
Right.
And that's why I think this is the time he would make a move like this. Because it is, if this kid is the most talented kid on my roster, this is what I got to do.
Gotta play him.
He is not afraid to do that. And I do think him bringing in Julian Sand also shows that too, because there was conversations that maybe this wasn't a good idea. He had to be talked into it, but then he was all in on the idea because he knew it was going to make the overall room better and it was making the roster better.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think he would make a move like this if he had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that Ohio State can win a national championship with Julian Sand slinging the ball? This is for both of you.
Yes.
Damn.
The end of the season, Julian Sand. Like I said, I believe that his floor and ceiling are higher than every other quarterback in that room.
His floor?
Yeah.
That's impossible. He's a freshman. Yeah. His floor is 5 interceptions a game.
Let me add something to that real quick. I think there are 3 quarterbacks on this roster that can win Ohio State national championship. I think Will Howard, Devin Brown, and yes, I do believe we get to the point because Julian Sand. The reason Julian Sand is going to be the backup is because they want him to get reps those
next
first
year.
5 to no, even this year. Those first 5 to 6 games this year. In those blowouts, they want Julian Sand to get those reps. And getting those game reps, getting that game experience would have him ready for this time at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The Clemson did it with Trevor Lawrence. Alabama did it with Tua. That's what these teams do.
So Clemson started Trevor Lawrence from the get-go. I'll give you that. But Tua how many games did he start as a freshman?
He didn't start, but he played.
He played in a lot.
Yeah.
So how many freshmen have won national championships? 3? Trevor Lawrence, Tua, and Jamel Holloway.
Do we count Tebow in there because he wasn't a starter?
I wouldn't.
No.
I mean, he played a lot.
He played
a lot.
4. Trevor Lawrence, Jamel Holloway.
Oklahoma.
That was incorrect. I don't know who said that. Okay.
Oh, Jamel Holloway didn't win it?
It said he did. Okay, Google, you're giving me some wrong information here.
That was that Wishbone offense. I believe he took over for Troy Aikman because Troy Aikman was at Oklahoma, transferred to UCLA. I believe.
Trevor Lawrence did. Does Tua technically count? I mean,
I don't know.
What you guys are describing.
Counts, then you have to count Tebow too, right?
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
You
what you guys
you
are
would,
describing is Trevor Lawrence,
right?
You guys are describing Trevor Lawrence and Jamel Holloway, right?
Pretty much. I mean, the idea behind all of this is, again, it goes back to the fact that Julian Sand was number 1 on their board. He was higher than Aaron Noland. He was higher than Dylan Raiola. He was higher than every single other quarterback in the country, right? They came after him a little bit later than they should have when they made the offer, but because he was already committed to Alabama at that point in time. But the idea is that he is so damn good that it first of all boggles my mind that he wasn't the top quarterback in the country, which I'm not even going to get into that because that's just a bunch of politic bullshit, right? But when a guy like that comes into your program, you expect him to play early and often. It's just like any other 5-star that you get, right? You expect 5-stars to play and get them ready. And I think that they're going to do that. And I mean, like, what do you think? Like, do you think Devin Brown's going to come in the fourth quarter and get reps? Does that make sense for him?
I don't know.
Like,
What we're dealing with is unprecedented because of the length of the season. So I don't know how they're going to allocate reps. If it were me, yes. But I see your point. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying. So because right now that means we have 2 generational freshmen, Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sand. What are the odds? Does that make sense? Like, it just doesn't. My odds, I'm betting against that, my friend.
Let me just say something about Julian Sand. The last Ohio State quarterback to win the Elite 11 was CJ Stroud.
Yep.
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not saying Julian Sand is going to be CJ Stroud, but I do think that from a talent perspective, not only can he sling it, he's also mobile. I mean, I think he's going to be really good. And I think they're already telling us he's going to start next year. I mean, there's going to be a competition, but let's call it what it is.
And remember, Fields won it as well. So there is good precedence. There's big time precedence about a quarterback winning the Elite 11 because it literally is the top quarterback camp that you can go to in the country. So it's invite only.
I understand that, and he's very good. I've never said he wasn't good, but remember too, CJ Stroud also won nothing.
It's true.
So just throwing that out.
Neither did Fields.
That's why I want Ryan Day fired.
Hey, at least Fields won a Big Ten title, did?
You're exactly right.
True. And they did win a college football playoff game as well. So
they did actually. That was like that team too. He had 2020 team was whoo. But all right, last question, Tyler. Then we'll let you go. What does Ryan Day have to do in your eyes to keep his job? Mike and I disagree on this. I got to ask you.
Okay. All right. Well, you have to beat Michigan first and foremost.
Okay.
You need to get to that game with either one loss at a bare minimum, because that game at Eugene is going to be a massive game. There's no other way around it. And it wouldn't shock me if we lost that game, just being honest. You have to go into that game against Michigan with one loss. First off, you better beat Michigan, and then you know what? I'm going to say this is a requirement for me because it hasn't happened. You need to win a Big Ten title, so you need to beat Michigan and win a Big Ten title. I want to say, I'll tell my friends, like, deep down, he needs to win the national title with this roster. Like, you're spending, if the reports are true and combined on coaches and players, we're spending $34 million. You better win a title with this roster. But that being said, he does not need to win a title in order to keep his job. He needs Michigan. He needs a Big Ten title. Those two. I would argue that he needs to win a college football playoff game. I would make that argument, but I think for me, the big two, I need to beat Michigan because it's been so long and honestly, it's becoming to the point to where that's becoming embarrassing. To even like right now, it's getting to the point some fans rather win a Big Ten title or a national championship than beat Michigan. I want to beat Michigan and do all that. Like beating Michigan is why you used to come to Ohio State. That used to be the reason you were a Buckeye, was to beat Michigan. He needs to do that and win a Big Ten title. If one of those things is not done, and I'm talking either if you beat Michigan and lose the Big Ten title, I still don't think that's good enough. You have to do both, at least both. Wow. And honestly, the expectations are national title. Like that's what it is with this team. But to keep the job, beat Michigan, win the Big Ten title. And in that mind, don't get me wrong, I'd be pissed if we didn't win a title because I think everything at your disposal to pretty much do that. So if you don't, I'm going to be pissed, but I'm not firing him if he doesn't win a national title this year.
Can I interject? Mm-hmm. I would also accept him losing to Michigan the first time, then beating them in the Big Ten championship. I would accept that. Would you accept that?
If it came down to that, yes. If it came down to that. I don't think Michigan's going to be in that position now.
Yeah, he's got to smash Oregon. Right. Michael, do you
okay, so
I know that you disagree.
Okay, so I know no, not that I okay, so I don't disagree, but I want to go back to what you're saying, Tyler. I want to go back to what you're saying, Tyler. So I throw this hypothetical out to you.
We argue about this every week. There was a time where our chat was just nothing but people talking shit about the coaches. We would be like Team Josh and Team Michael just bash each other
all the time.
Killing me. This is hilarious.
All right, so lose to Michigan, don't make the Big Ten title, makes a deep run into the college football playoff, loses the national championship, still have a job.
No,
gone.
That means not. You've won nothing of significance in
that. What did he win? Like he hasn't.
I mean,
he hasn't won
I get that, but if you make the end goal is national championship, and you fall just short, even though you don't win the Big Ten and you don't beat Michigan, I still think he has a job.
It's like that.
He has a job.
It's like that Seinfeld skit.
I still think he has a job. I still think he has a job. No, I don't think they let him go. Who do you? Okay, so then if that happens, so say that he does get fired, who's on your short list?
Dude, that's not a fair. You asked that question.
I know.
But the thing is that you don't have to have that list right now. That to me is not a fair question. That's like saying, well, like, I don't like my girlfriend, but I'm not going to get any better. Like
it's Ohio State, though. It's Ohio State. They can get anyone they want.
That's my point. You can get whoever you want.
Right.
So there is no short list. There's a job. I'm going to pull down my pants, and whoever kisses my ass the nicest gets the job. What do you mean? You're Ohio State. You're the fourth. You pay the fourth highest. You get the fourth highest paying job in the fucking sport. You get whoever you want. What do you mean? The shortlist question. I don't get it. You could go get Lance Leopold. You could go get who's winning at Kansas. You could go get G.J. Kenny at Texas State.
No thanks. No thanks.
Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning.
You act like Ryan Day. That's the thing. Ryan Day didn't have any coaching experience.
I can make an argument for Dabo too.
I am not.
See, I wouldn't.
Wait, you say of Dabo?
Yeah.
I don't want Dabo.
No.
I can make that argument.
Ugh. Then give me
my boy Ryan saying Eddie George.
Okay. Head coaching experience hasn't won anything, but okay. I mean, they wanted him to
recruit.
Come back as
Why are you so against a guy like Lance Leopold? Because because remember, Jim Tressel came from Youngstown State,
right?
So Kalen DeBoer came from like Grand Valley State.
Right.
Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, who's a way better coach than Ryan Day could ever fathom to be, came from South Dakota State?
Yeah.
Lance Leopold came from Buffalo. All the good coaches. Urban Meyer came from Bowling Green. Ryan Day, his first job was at Ohio State. That's part of the issue. I don't think Ryan Day's a bad coach. I think that he was given a Ferrari before he got his driver's license. That's the fucking issue. I mean, you didn't want to give Dealer the job because the exact same thing. But for some reason, Ryan Day, I don't get the Ryan Day love.
Yeah.
I don't.
They would try and throw a bag at Mike Vrabel to come back.
I could see that too.
Well, according to my boy Ryan down here, Mike Vrabel, well, he didn't comment it, but I know what he's thinking. Mike Vrabel's not coming to the college game.
No,
I know. I'll believe me. Many people have said that, but
he doesn't want to recruit.
Money talks. It's also your alma mater. I think he would listen. I really do. I think he would listen.
I think he'd
listen, but I don't know if he'd take it. I don't think he likes recruiting. I don't think he likes
recruiting. So to answer the question, Tyler, is that on your short? Is that who's on your short list? Mike Vrabel.
I mean, Mike Vrabel, Dan Lanning. Those immediately.
You could get Dan Lanning. You just
it immediately sticks out to me in that regard. Those, I mean, that's where I would go.
Ryan makes a good point here. I feel you.
I mean, true. He took a job with the Browns to be Kevin Stefanski's,
a special assistant or something.
By the way, that's my boy Coach Stewart. He coached me at Valparaiso when I went to Ohio State. Whenever I say I got inside information, that's the dude. Still got some context. Thanks for clicking on.
Nice.
I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, but anyway, so Dan Lanning, I feel you. That's
Mike
a
Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is on that list, and again, I'm not saying he takes the job, but I bet he would listen. I really do.
Yeah.
It's your alma mater. So, also, by the way, I'm not hating on Ryan Day. I just think the expectation is you've lost to Michigan 3 times in a row. You have to beat them this 4th year when they're down more than they're ever going to be. And you have to win a Big Ten title because you know what you also haven't won in 3 years? A Big Ten title. And at Ohio State, the expectation has to be you have to have expectations. The expectation every year is you beat Michigan, you win a Big Ten title. If you aren't at least beating Michigan, then you don't deserve to be the coach at Ohio State. You're John Cooper.
And that doesn't make you sound insane. Oh, what you're saying, that's the expectation you laid out every year. He hasn't done any of it in 3 years. That's the expectation every year, and he hasn't done one of those things in 3 years. Could you imagine if your job gave you a list of things to do and you didn't do one of those things for 3 years straight? It's I'm not hating on Ryan Day either. I think Ryan Day is the kind of guy, he's going to go on, he's going to get fired, he's going to win 13 Mountain West Conference championships in a row. He's going to grow up, he's going to get a job at Georgia and win a national.
I agree with you, Poppy. I'm not I mean
those 58 I can win 58 games against fucking Akron. I just want to be very clear right here. I do it all the time on NCAA. All the time.
You get it. But I mean, Urban lost to Purdue and Iowa. Day has not done that. Yes, he's struggled to win the big game, right? But he's still he's still first-time coach. He's still figuring it out. You have to give him time. I still think he needs more time.
Half a decade.
I still think he needs more time.
Half a decade.
I feel like this could be talked about for hours. Just hours.
All right, yeah, Mike, you want to
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us today. Once again, we appreciate everybody who tuned in. Tyler, very thankful for you to join. Tyler, tell us where we can follow you. Obviously, we see your Twitter handle. Tell us where we can get that podcast.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at T_Johnson_TJ. You can follow the Scarlet and Gray Podcast. We are live now every Tuesday evening on the Network 216 YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter at DSG_podcast. All your Ohio State football updates on transfers, recruiting, even started covering some basketball from time to time when the offseason for football is a little bit slow. So again, follow us there. And then, like I said, we are live every Tuesday night on YouTube, and that's where you can find all of our coverage. Like we've talked about before before the show started, we've had the opportunity to interview Ohio State freshman quarterback Aaron Noland, new Australian punter Nick McLarty, which is a pretty hilarious and great story if you guys haven't seen that one. But
I like that you asked about the Redskins helmet. I liked when you asked about the Redskins helmet. You're like, dude, what's up with that?
Yeah, that was great. And also Lincoln Keenholz. So, yeah, make sure you guys check us out. And really appreciate anyone that shows us that support.
Good stuff over there. Josh, any last words?
Yeah, man, you can follow me on Twitter at Josh Keatley 16. Thanks for clicking on, guys. We with your questions and all that good stuff. Definitely check us out at Buckeyes Wire. We'll be back next Wednesday at 7:30. And thanks for coming on, Tyler. You have to come on and talk basketball with Michael sometimes because I don't even know the rules.
I'll admit, listen, I don't know as much Ohio. Like, I'm getting back into it a little bit, so I'm starting to pick up a lot more. Maybe in about a year or so, I'll be able to really have an intelligent Ohio State basketball conversation.
Well,
I'm getting there, though. I'm getting there.
You do Cavs. You have Cavs takes and stuff. I don't even know the rules. I'm not exaggerating. Ball and hole, baby. Like I don't. So you don't understand. You're appropriately prepared, but that's it. Though I'm good.
All right. Yep. That's it for us. We appreciate it. Once again, thank you, Tyler, for joining us. And go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.